Hello everyone. I think we can begin now in interest of time, and I'm sure it's midweek, so everyone must be busy. So we will just begin. We'll begin with the webinar right away. Firstly, thank you so much, everyone, for joining today's webinar. My name is Aarti, and I work with the corporate team at Connect4. On behalf of the Connect4 team, I would like to thank you all for tuning into this webinar, where we hope to identify and discuss some tough as well as yet to be unaddressed questions from the perspective of sustaining and structuring employee volunteering. Before we begin, if you'll find any difficulty, if you can't hear us properly, or if you can't hear a speaker properly, please let us know in the chat section. Usually, it's due to the connectivity issues. Meanwhile, if you'll have any questions, you can also put that in the chat section, and our speakers would be happy to address them. However, if your questions remain unanswered, feel free to add them to the feedback form that we will be sharing at the end of this webinar. So also, as many of y'all must be aware, and through the video that I shared earlier, y'all must be knowing what Connect4 does actually. So Connect4 is a volunteering platform where we match volunteers to NGOs based on their volunteering needs. Uh, where we consider the requirements of the volunteers as well as the NGOs, and basically we are matchmakers here. We specifically curate volunteering engagements for both individuals as well as corporate organizations, keeping in mind the preferences of all the stakeholders. We have currently over 450 NGO partners and about 25,000 plus volunteers on our platform. We work across 9 cause verticals: environment, community development, education, just to name a few. Just to set a context about what the webinar is all about, and and to give you all a quick brief about the webinar. We truly appreciate what the corporate organizations are doing at this point of time, and are looking at a brighter future during this time of COVID, with the help of CSR, be it COVID relief programs, etc. Um, while most of us have the willingness to do so, we some corporate organizations also require assistance to smoothly transition to with the dynamic trends and grappling employee volunteer in the social space. So through this webinar, we will be touching upon ways in which an organization can sustain and structure employee volunteering. Moving ahead, I would like to introduce you all to our speakers for today. We have Swati Srivastava with us, who has about 15 years of experience across different roles in volunteering, fundraising, marketing, and events. In her current role as the Deputy General Manager of Group CSR, Swati leads the volunteering efforts of Employee Social Options (ESOPs) program at the Mahindra Group. Next, we have Tapsi Malhotra, who has 10 years of experience in professional experience. Presently, she is responsible for building and managing CSR programs at Alvarez and Marshall, focusing on employee engagement. Uh, we also have Sara Rukmini. Sara is a member of RPG Foundation and manages the education vertical, entrepreneurship programs, and volunteering initiatives there. She has 17 years of experience in the field of learning and development, and has worked with Zenzar Technologies for the past 12 years. Lastly, but not the least, we have Zainab Ali. She heads the social responsi- uh, corporate social responsibility mandate of the Eaton Group uh, of companies. She's a trainer, teacher, researcher, practitioner, and has about 13 years of experience of working on concerns and vulnerabilities of migrant workers, genders, etc., in the development sector. Welcome to all our speakers today.
Thank you, Aarti. Thank you.
We will begin. Hello. Am I audible? So sorry,
Yes,
I
yes.
can see everyone. Yeah. Okay. All right. So we will begin with the questions for today. So to begin with, what are the steps that need to be taken to understand and initiate employee volunteering based on employee interest? Sarah, would you like to take this question?
Sure, Aarti. But before we really talk about what are the steps, I think it's important just to set the context here as to, why do we actually engage our employees in volunteering? How does it really impact the organization that we work with? So corporate citizenship is becoming increasingly important for businesses and organizations. So if you ask me, there are two things that we look at that makes a good company. One is the way they do their business, how ethically they do their business, and how they retain talent. And the second one is how a company contributes to the wider society beyond its own walls. How do they contribute to the planet at large, to the society in general? And hence it becomes very, very critical. And also how our CSR initiatives really strengthen the brand image of the organization that we work for. It is the employees that strengthen the corporate citizenship from inside out, right? So they bring in a lot of energy, they bring in a lot of talent, they bring in a lot of ideas in which they can make a difference. What I would say, hence, we need to have a very, very structured approach towards how we drive volunteering. And I would like to call it as a purpose driven employee volunteering. And there is one People Matters survey that says that 84% of the employees are motivated to perform versus the 62% employees of the companies where there is no community engagement. When we talk to our employees, if you just do a general survey, formally, informally, what they want is, what they say is, how do I really make a difference to the society? Everybody is seeking for a purpose-driven, a work environment where they can add value, where they can contribute to the society. So that is why I would like to call it the purpose-driven employee volunteering program. Organizations do have a lot of employee engagement stuff, which is more focused towards the employees' health and mindfulness programs and exercise and diet. But when they are engaged very meaningfully in making a difference to the society, that's where their emotional well-being and fulfillment comes into play. And there was this study when I was looking at, reading up. So this study by International Journal of Psychophysiology, they said that people who spend their time, employees who spend their time helping the community and helping others had, through the organization involvement, had higher self-esteem and less depression and low. Hence, it's very important. Now, what do we really need to keep in mind when you have employees who are seeking a purpose, seeking to get fulfillment through the work that they do? They're very time crunched, especially the background that I come with, or the company that I am more aligned to is an IT company. They work very hard. They work anywhere between 10 to 16 hours per day, and yet we have volunteers contributing because they find a sense of fulfillment, satisfaction, and that impacts the productivity of the employee and also results in employee retention. So somewhere organization, there's a huge big connection, which is not very obvious, but there is a connection between what we do through our employees and how we engage them and how it really impacts their productivity and talent retention in the organization. And not just that, the brand image of being a socially corporate organization, that's where all these volunteering programs really help the business goals as well. So that's the connection. So how do we really go about going this? So number one is communicating the purpose and the vision of your initiative to the employees. That's very, very important. How strategically you the messaging goes across the organization. That's how do you position your program to the, how do you present your program to the employees is important. How do you let them know what is the social impact that will be created through their contribution when they volunteer? So that you could be in the area of healthcare, community development, education, rural development, or anything wherever your organization is, is focused on. So it's important to communicate to them, what is the larger social impact. There are a number of hours. Even if an employee contributes about 2 hours, how is it really going to impact the larger society at large? So that's one, communicating the purpose and the vision, and not just, hey, you just come in and we have a volunteering program and this is where you can, what you can do and feel good about yourself. It has to go beyond that. Second step, very critical, I feel, and we make sure, at least in our organization, is that we get the leadership on board. So get the management, the senior management, the middle management, even at the CEO level, communicate what you're doing to the leadership. Get them on board, because you need their support when you run your volunteering program. So they're the ones who will support you and encourage the employees to go and contribute and participate in volunteering programs. Their buy-in is very, very important. Sometimes we may start small, but the moment the leadership gets involved, your program just goes very big and the magnitude and the volume just increases. Because when you reach out to the leadership, they also are seeking a sense of fulfillment and a purpose in life. Everybody, be it the fresher in your organization or the leadership, that is what they're looking for. So getting the leadership on board is critical to what you're doing, because they will probably encourage their team members to contribute. They will sometimes release certain team members for a certain specific task that could be that is required. And I can give a lot of examples about that, where we have involved the leadership, the senior managers and vice presidents, and they said, hey, let's release a certain number of people so that they can help you with what you're doing, especially during the COVID times. Then the third step is you need to have a good strategy, a very, very good plan of how you're going to drive the program. That is critical, because employees, they need a clear blueprint of what is going to happen, how they're going to work with you on that initiative. So, and you need to share that plan with them. Secondly, after you create a plan, you probably may need to train your employees on what to do, what not to do. Suppose you are seeking help, taking the support in community development programs. That territory, it's a very different segment. When they have to interact with the community people, what are the do's and don'ts? What is the approach? They will probably need some training and help and support, some guidance and advice, and you need to be with them as they go about it. Then as you implement, it's important that there is a good governance mechanism that is put in place by the CSR team. And you need to assess and constantly give them feedback on how the work is going on. How are you evaluating the entire initiative? What is the impact that is being created, and whether it's going well, not going well? What are the improvements that you need to make on the go? So it's important that you have a very strong governance system as well, assessing and giving them the feedback, and also measuring the impact of even if it is a 2-hour work, how is it really impacting? What is the impact that is being created? So it's important to plan, to train, implement it well, execute it well, and then assess and show the impact and be in constant communication with your volunteers. Have a strong team, develop a good team. of out of the volunteers. That's the third step: plan, train, implement, and assess the feedback and impact. And lastly, once your program or the initiative is done, it's important that we also appreciate the employees. It could be anything. It could be an email or giving them visibility across the organization, putting up pictures on the on your web portal, maybe an email from the senior management appreciating the efforts, or a certificate of participation, or you could. We have something called as Zen star points. It could be anything where the work gets recognized, the contribution gets recognized. So I think this is what I had to say, Aarti. These are the four steps. One is communicate the purpose and vision, get your leadership on board, get their support. It's very, very critical. Third is have a good plan, implement it well, train your volunteers on how to go about it, and then monitor and evaluate and give them the feedback and measure the impact of what they've done, and then appreciate them. So this is a little bit from my end. Thank you.
Very nicely put, Sarah. Actually, like it has literally given us each and every point and very aptly put in. Uh, Swati, Tapsi, would you like to add on to what Sarah just said?
Yes, so Sarah made it easier. So thank you, Sarah. You set the context right and you mentioned as why volunteering. So you have answered a lot of questions related to that. So I will straight away move to what we did at Mahindra Mahindra. Okay, so just a little bit of background. The company was founded in 1945. By 1954, we had a trust. Okay, because the founders believed in giving back to the society, and while it was focused on education, okay, even after that, there were there were many incidents where we realized that it was ingrained in Mahindra employees that giving back is important, and we could see all that through lot of disaster relief work, at various points in time, which have happened in so many years. And when it was a 60th anniversary, which was 2005, is when management wanted to do something different, and they decided that in that year that 1% of PAT will go to CSR funds. Now, that time the Companies Act were not enacted, as you're aware. Okay, but along with it, they also decided that we will be introducing employee volunteering platform, which we call ESOPs, which is basically employee social options. And so in the 60th anniversary in 2005, we introduced it. We gave it a structure, and it was interlinked to our CSR program. So what we did was that whatever profits the company was making and the way it was distributed at every location, the employees were empowered to design their own program in health, education, or environment in the communities that they were working in. So they went, met with them, understood what was the need, and designed and rolled out a program. And there was a structure given to each and every location. As of now, we have 70 such locations. And the structure was that the business head would lead it. We call them ESOPs leader. Okay, there was an implementing team, and this implementing team or the committee comprised of department heads from that particular location, all the departments, and there was an ESOPs champion who was supposed to roll it out. So this is how they ensured that every location had very good participation, because the department heads ensured that it was communicated in his own department as what initiatives should be taken. And once those decisions were taken in the committee, the champions would roll it out. Now this has been happening from the last 15 years. Okay, and this year is our 75th year. So we have actually launched another platform, which I will talk about later. Okay, so in terms of when you ask that what steps needs to be taken to initiate and understand employee volunteering, my thing is that the way I see it, the way it has evolved, I think it was a very good thinking in terms of, because we were interested in doing CSR in certain domains, we made it part of our culture. It became ingrained in our culture that giving back is important, to the extent that, in the very first year in 2005, where there were only 4,000 employees having registered, as volunteers, today we have 92,000 people registered as volunteers in Mahindra Mahindra Group. So it's been a long journey. Today we have almost completed around 3.3 million person hours in the last 15 years. So it has been a journey. It has grown year on year. It has been growing, and just so that it is easy for us, we also give ourselves target. We give target to every location. Not that it necessarily needs to be followed in that manner, okay? But yes, there's something to go by. Then, of course, to motivate and all, a lot of things happen locally as well as centrally. So locally, of course, as Sarah also spoke about, a lot of things I would not repeat. Those are undertaken, okay, in many ways. Letter of appreciation, and also, leaderships do speak about it, okay. And there are motivational speakers. We get, community to talk about it, okay. And we acknowledge who has been clocking maximum marks. That is at local level, and of course, we do it at the central level as well. At our level, which is like I look after the volunteering for Mahindra Mahindra centrally. So at our level, we also have awards which are instituted called ESOPs awards. Okay, and every location is encouraged to participate in it, and we give awards to the location as well as individuals. So this has been the journey so far. There's something more that I maybe will let you know in my next question to you. But this is how it started, and this is how we think that it has been successful, because we somewhere were able to very beautifully weave it in the in the way we work. I think that's the reason it was successful. So that's all I have to say, Harati, as of now. So you may just continue.
Thank you, Swati, for letting us know what amazing work actually Mahindra and Mahindra has been doing. Tapsi, would you like to add on?
Yeah, hi everyone. So, I've been listening to Sarah and Swati very carefully, and I think they have covered most of the points on why employee monitoring should be done and how it's supposed to be done. And after employees volunteer, the appreciation and sharing of the impact that you have created as collectively is very important. There are three buckets which I would like to share. My background basically is that CSR started in my current company, is very recently. So we started with very basics, which basically is to define what employee volunteering is all about in the company itself, defining who and which employee is more or less interested. So basically, conceptualization, identification, and alignment, these are the three concepts where I work upon. Conceptualization basically is defining employee volunteering, which basically would mean attaching a sense of responsibility once you have decided to participate. When you have been given a choice to participate, you choose your activity, whichever activity he or she is interested in, the employee is interested in, but you attach a sense of responsibility. So this concept is very important. Why? Because we had heard a lot of leaders who had said that volunteering basically actually means sense of freedom, and they can leave and join whichever activity at whatever point of time they want to. But as a concept, it was very clear from the beginning itself. We set it out very clearly that there will be number of activities, but the sense of responsibility is something which needs to come from you after you have put up a choice to participate in a certain activity. So this kind of a thing to choose your activity out of the 5 or the 6 or the 7 activities which are listed there, there's a sense of responsibility which then defines your sense of commitment, whether it will be for a day or for a weekday, a weekend, or for a number of days. So everything gets related to it. So the concept very well goes out in the beginning. The tone is set in the beginning. Second point, which is very important, as Swati has mentioned, that it should be coming from the employees. So we also started it up like that. We identified employees from the very scratch. Basically, it was to identify employees who have always been interested or doing something or the other, related to social cause or supporting, when since their childhood, or they have always been inspired or influenced by their friends or family since childhood. So their interest level as compared to someone who has been interested but never got the opportunity is very different. And there will be employees who would always be neutral. So it's very important to identify these set of employees. And after you have conceptualized, you have identified, the alignment of interest happens very quickly and the result is very quick at the same time as well. So I always, would say that conceptualization also, includes defining policy or having a blueprint, in place, or let the leadership talk, as Sarah was pointing it out. So conceptualization, identification, and alignment of it all, happens very quickly once the first two steps are done with. So employee volunteering that way comes easier, is what I would say.
Yeah, I
There would,
100% I would agree to that.
yeah.
I think all the three speakers have very rightly put in what is required for someone who has started volunteering, like Mahindra's, who has started volunteering way earlier, and has that kind of an volunteering environment in their organization to something like, as Tapsi said, that they are quite new to volunteering. You need to make them understand what it is and what impact they are going to create. Moving on, Swati, the next question is directed towards you. Uh, what does individual employee volunteering structure look like, and what should be the organization? What should the organization consider prior to initiating individual virtual volunteering? So, Mahindra's has started individual virtual volunteering a few months back. Would you like to brief us about how you all started off, and what are you all looking at, and what is your goal in this coming year, since it's all started virtually, which is quite challenging also.
Sure. Sure. Thank you, Aarti. Okay, so just wanted to give you a little more information on certain new developments that happened this year on our volunteering platform. So as I mentioned earlier, ESOPs have been there for the last 50 years. It was integrated with our CSR vision, and the projects that were being implemented were under those domain and constituencies. Okay, so what happened, in the beginning of this financial year, during the pandemic, we realized that a lot of our employees were still giving, although they were not part of our ESOS program, which is an organized volunteering platform, and they did whatever they could do in the community that they were living in. Okay, and they've really gone out to do so. Okay, and because of social distancing and working from home, we were not able to organize ESOPs activities. And so far, ESOPs have always been a lot of physical activity, if you ask me, rather than the virtual one. I don't think we really experimented with virtual volunteering earlier. And this being our 75th year, on 2nd of October, we just started our first day of the 75th year. We just started celebrating it. And the entire year, we will be celebrating it till next September, 30th September. We just thought that, what was lacking. I'll tell you what was lacking. What was lacking was that, you know, there were still employees who have not been able to be part of our ESOP system. Reasons were many. One is that since it is linked to CSR funds, not every location is making profits, or they have the CSR funds to be able to execute or be part of CSR initiatives which are taken in those locations. That was number one. Number two, since CSR vision focuses on three domains, we were not able to give an opportunity to employees, although we would not say no. There are something called others, but we were not able to really go all out and encourage employees to do whatever they feel like, okay, and reporting. That was missing. Third, at times when you're volunteering, you may just want to do at the location of your choice. Maybe we were not able to give you location of your choice because all the time we have been working in the communities where we are based. But if I want to go to my hometown and do something, that location may not get covered by our CSR initiative or the ESOS platform. So we launched something called MySaver. MySaver gives an opportunity directly to each and every employee of Mahindra, and we have more than 200,000 of them, okay, to directly log on to the portal and report in whatever acts of goodness that we have been doing at our end. And particularly, it was extremely important in the pandemic time because a lot of good is happening, but it is getting unreported. Because with ESOPs, we have been tracking it. We have an online tracking system. And as I had mentioned, we have champions for the locations. They keep uploading activity and every detail every month. And that's how we consolidate it at our end centrally. And that's how we know all the numbers. But with this My Seva, we have given opportunity to every employee to do whatever is close to their heart, wherever they want to do it, and report it onto this portal. And it's just launched and it's just started. So having said that, I will now come back to the other thing, that how did the virtual volunteering start? So we experienced a very good association with Connect 4 in the month of, I think, March, where they did some school painting physical activity because they organized it. And when the pandemic happened, all our locations were asking us that, as I mentioned earlier, we do give targets, okay? Not literally, but we do have targets for every location for volunteering hours. So they was asking us that how do we go about it? And by the time we came up with My Seva, we still did not want to lose that opportunity to give some better suggestion as what could be done this particular year because of social distancing. So because of a good association that we had with Connect 4, they came back to us and they suggested that why not roll out virtual volunteering. So initially, while we were still in talks with Connect 4, we suggested it to all locations that look, this is a good way of going about it, and we gave them certain ideas as what can be done this particular year in the pandemic time. But what we experienced was that nobody was really coming out and talking to not-for-profits who would be rolling out virtual volunteering, and for some or the other reason they were unable to implement it. That is when we went back to Connect 4 and we spoke with them and said that, look, we would want to introduce it for Pan India. Okay, each and every location should have the access for virtual volunteering, and we centrally would tie up. The locations wouldn't, we will centrally tie up with Connect 4. And every employee of Mahindra, wherever they are, should be able to log in and report in their activities, which would be promoted by Connect 4. So since Connect 4 had a very good association with lots of not-for-profit and lots of opportunities, we rolled it out. The problem that we faced, as I mentioned earlier, we have always had an online tracking system where we have been tracking the volunteering hours and the beneficiary details and other important details about the employee. Okay, that we were not sure how do we connect with Connect 4 because that is internal to Mahindra and Mahindra. But we put our minds together and we were able to kind of come up about a way in which we could track which employee from which location and which sector and which company is enrolling with Connect 4. So that system has been put in place. It took some time, but we have been able to work around it. So having that happen in August, we rolled it out. In the very first month, we had 1,000 registrations. We felt it was not too bad. Okay, the following month, little low because the conversion was happening. All these 1,000 people had enrolled and now they were getting converted into a volunteer with some other project. And we have this association going on for the entire year. So slowly and slowly, we will be pushing it more. Okay, and we're getting in more and more employees to virtually volunteer. So what I would like to add is this is our first such experience. We are also exploring and learning along with Connect 4. Okay, we are also trying to change mindsets, if you ask me, because many people are not very comfortable virtually volunteering. So they are seeing how it is happening. So we are sharing a lot of stories, and some people are really writing back beautiful ones, and we are sharing it with people, and this is how we are encouraging, and we look forward to many more Mahindra employees joining in. So I think this is the best way we can really give back in the current time. Okay, and nothing could be better if you can do it sitting at home. So thank you, Aarti, for this question. I'm happy to have answered it. Thank you.
Definitely, like we are more than happy to have Mahindra volunteers. They are quite enthusiastic set of volunteers, I must say. Tapsi, would you like to add on to what Swati said?
Yeah, absolutely. I am in full agreement with her that this is the first time I think everybody is getting into virtual volunteering. It's all like an experiment for all of us. Now, as I said that, since we defined it in the beginning itself, that a concept will be clear, we will identify various employees, who will be interested. Their interest level is very much defined. Initially itself, we rolled out a survey and we knew the interest level of various employees, and we knew which sector, which cause do they relate to. There were some of the employees who had their pet causes since childhood they have been supporting. So what we did initially is we started rolling out their stories, how they have been, investing their time, as well as their, basically, of course, physically you can't go out, but how are they able to support the cause which they have been since the beginning itself, since their beginning as a childhood. So uh, those stories helped us influence and inspire a lot of other employees. Second was to understand, what kind of activities can we do as of now. So various procedures were set in the company to understand that education sector is where, people would be mostly interested in, so it was a very simple connect in a way, wherein of course we had to identify an NGO, and we saw that, all these kids, students in the remote locations studying in government schools, of course they wouldn't be going to schools, but they had some kind of connectivity which was through mobile phones. you know at the same time, when these equipments were not available, we found out another solution, which basically was, to connect with them through printouts, which were basically sent to the center, and they were couriered to various, students at different locations. So this is how everything happened, because initially it was more about, going to the center and physically teaching, monitoring, and at the same time, mentoring those kids. But later on it came to how to virtually connect if they don't have the equipment. Of course, you can speak on the phone, you have a laptop, well, very good enough. You can be, you can share videos, you can share chit chats. But when you don't have it in place in remote locations specifically, what to do. So the answer that came out was basically the way, we are organizing various couriers here and there, when we are sending documents, why not do the same thing with the kids as well. And of course the NGO is more or less, very encouraging, and they would always want their students to be engaged throughout this time, because it's very easy, is what we have understood, especially in the village setup, that, if the girl student is not studying or doing anything as of now, probably just get them married. So it was very important for the NGO to get such support. If it can happen virtually through video calls, through phone chats, good enough. Otherwise, we found out a solution. Basically, was to give out the papers and assignments, which was again collected back, corrected by the teachers, and of course, employees volunteered big time. And when I say that, the sense of commitment is something which is very important, so we define that as well depending on employee interest. So for example, an employee who said that I can give my weekend and not more days, because of course, working in a consulting, since it's a consulting background, time crunch time is a very big factor. So weekend, so we designed it in a way that, his or her contribution is a weekend kind of a contribution. A very interesting case study which I can share with you, which has become a big example, is through some of the employees who basically were interested in cooking. Okay, it's a very personal interest that they were interested in cooking, and how they influence other employees to cook a little bit extra, living in the same nearby locations. And at the time of April, if you will remember, in the month of April, March and April, when there was, a deficiency of food distribution and everything. So all these people staying in the nearby location came together, and they did nothing but cooked a little extra, which could be given to one common center. And from there, a lot of needy people were coming up and, basically taking up their meal of the day. So really depends, how the employee interested. Everything comes from the employees, and I completely agree with Swati when she says that there have to be champions defined in locations or in departments who actually help you build up your CSR program, and it becomes very thorough. Inspiration and from leadership is as important as inspirations from your peers. So this is how it had gone about. The challenge that I would say is, yeah, of course, there were a lot of discussions how to make it possible, how virtually it will be effective. So I think we were able to overcome those challenges as well. and now the procedures are very, very, I would say, structured, because we tried, tested, experimented, and now we are here that we have actually done some 6 to 7 virtual volunteering programs.
Wow, that's great. I think at the beginning of like March, all the organizations that we were also speaking to were quite like figuring out how they can get into virtual volunteering. Everyone wanted to do something, but how to do it was a huge question. But now, slowly, gradually, everyone is trying to learn and evolve their volunteering structure in their organization. Moving ahead, Tapsi, again back to you. What are the ways you all are motivating employees to volunteer? So, obviously, strategies in terms of like pre-COVID also, like there were different strategies used then in comparison to now, where everyone is quite caught up with their work. Letting them come and volunteer is also a huge challenge that we have been hearing from a lot of our corporate partners. So, would you like to shed some light on that?
Absolutely, absolutely. So basically, as I said, there are some employees who will always influence and inspire people. So why not support their pet causes? Pet causes would actually mean, something that they have been supporting since the beginning. Second thing that we developed, and it's a very new concept, I did not see it happen very often, and it was very new when we, actually conducted this kind of a workshop or an activity, wherein we aligned the interest, which was like a personal interest. As I gave an example of cooking, we also had lot of employees who have been into, their who have been into fitness. They are, having a very healthy regime now. How can they contribute was the concern, because their interest was very clear that sitting at home, of course, employee well-being become an important concern. At the same time, you need to be sure that everybody around you, because all the stakeholders around you are also, you are able to help them or connect with them in some or the other way. So as I said, cooking was one of it. Second was a very big event and it became very successful event, was the event called Sweat It Out for a Cause, wherein all these employees who were into fitness, we made sure that every day they do a particular activity, and if they have clocked 40 minutes in that activity, which basically of course was about fitness, wherein, whatever you do, say some people find walking as, as their thing, some people find running to be one of the activities. Whatever activity they did was equivalent to number of meal boxes that A&M was generating. So for example, if an employee was able to do 40 minutes of, say, a combination of walking plus running, of course we had procedures to check that. If he or she is able to clock that time, that basically would mean that he has generated 40 meal boxes, just because he's taking care of himself. At the same time, we were making sure that these meal boxes were reaching, especially the migrant workers in the month of May. If you'll remember, it was a big, big concern. So I would say that the new concept basically was to understand personal capabilities and talent of people and align it with your CSR procedures. There are various things that you can do in such a thing, wherein employee interest reaches another level. I had never seen, employee participation that way within the first year of CSR itself. So employee participation increased, their well-being was served, and it was basically, achieving so many objectives at the same time.
That's wonderful. I think that's a very nice idea. So both the stakeholders are like benefiting from it. So, Swati, would you like to add on to how y'all are motivating volunteers at this time and what you used to do earlier also? Probably if you could let us know on that.
Sure. So the current time is a learning, okay, and I cannot add more to what Tabasi said. That's exactly we are also exploring. So thank you, Tabasi, for sharing that. Because this is a concept, is absolutely a new concept which has just come in, okay, and we are also seeing that how we can integrate wellness, with CSR activities and engagement, employee engagement and volunteering. So we are just considering that. Having said that, for us, wellness is also an HR activity. So we are also looking into how we can go about it. Having said that, I must tell you that in terms of employee motivation, we the structure culture that I described to you has been our biggest strength. The way it is kind of almost ingrained in every employee knows what ESOPs is, and they like to associate with it, and they get many opportunities throughout the year. It is not necessary that it has to be continuous, it can be one time. So there's a lot of flexibility, and it is all on encouragement. There's no, you don't lose anything if for some reason you're not able to volunteer. So it's the culture that we have defined and ingrained, which is sustaining this kind of volunteering hours that we keep trying to achieve. Okay, so if you ask me in terms of literally what all we do, so at the locations, those champions who are spearheading these ESOPs activities are also doing a lot of emailers, posters, banners, and they seek participation for every event. Okay, there are motivational speeches which have been happening. There is a sensitization related to community, their need is established. Okay, then we get them to talk to the community, they tell them back as what how they have been beautifully gained from this association. So this particularly motivates a lot. If you ask me what motivates the employees most, is when the community comes back to you and say that, look, this is what you did and this is how it has impacted my life. Nothing works better than that, if you ask me. And we do try and capture that as much as possible and circulate it. Then, apart from the feedback given, we have awards, as I was mentioning, and these are very important awards. So we have something called ESOPs Award, and there's something called Star Performer Award. These are location awards. So every location is actually also competing in terms of who has designed the best project possible, how they have implemented it, how many beneficiaries they are reaching out to. All that, is done through this award. So there are location awards for factory and non-factory because we have two categories. It's a huge organization. It's divided between factory and non-factory locations. That's one. And in the Star Performer Awards, it is actually absolutely only on volunteering parameters. So that our online tracking system itself throws up those numbers as which are the locations who are achieving the most volunteering hours and the participation. So that is this is also done for the employees. So the online tracking system that we have, it will also tell you who are the performers, best performers from every location. So, and we do kind of recognize it, and we have something called Rise Awards, which is held annually, in which many other awards are also given, and it's a very reputed event. There they are acknowledged, for their participation as well as having clocked in the highest volunteering numbers. Having said that, in the current scenario, it is little difficult. Okay, it is not that easy, and still we have what we have done in the 75th year. On 2nd of October, we have taken a pledge of doing 750,000 hours for this 75th year, which began on 2nd of October and will end on 30th of September. Now, the process has just started. Again, we are trying to centrally reach out to everybody through emailers, trying to educate them as what we are trying to do and how we are going to achieve it. Okay, and guiding them about it. But this process has just started. Okay, but this is very important for us, and we all want to contribute that many hours in our 75th year. So it's a journey. We will see how it unfolds. Okay, but one of the plans that I do have is to ensure that I just keep talking to everyone, telling them all the time that what are the best ways in which we can still, in the current scenario, reach this number. So I think it's very important that we keep communicating because we're all working from home, we're not meeting each other, and at times, as you may also be aware, people may not be reading emailers because there's so much to do. It's not possible. So the next step that I have decided that I will be undertaking to ensuring that this number is achieved is to be actually always talking to them, look into their problems, handle it, encourage them, and together, if we could all by 30th September achieve this number, I think that will be our biggest feat for the 75th year.
Yeah.
So back to you, Arya. Thank you.
I think I definitely agree to the fact that having communication is the key at this point of time. Like all of us are at home, there is a if there is a communication gap between volunteers and us, then there will be an issue. So it's better to communicate with them as much as possible because sometimes volunteers do not actually understand that what difference they will be making while sitting at home, but actually they can make a difference. So communication is the key at this point of time. I would totally agree to Swati and Tapsi on that. Moving on, our next question will be to Zainab. Zainab, what are the ways in which, or how can an organization engage employees on work who are working in remote locations uh, in for volunteering? So, and this can be like COVID, pre-COVID, as well as COVID, the challenges that you all have faced, and how are you all overcoming that at this point of time?
So thanks, Arti, for the question. And after Sarah, Swati, and Tapsi have spoken, I have very little to add. Um, so pardon me if I'm repeating a lot of the points that the other panelists have put forth. For Eaton and with and the organization that I work for within Eaton, which is Eaton India Foundation, which is a charitable trust that has been set up to take forward Eaton's mandate of CSR. So we always had this relationship where the volunteer was relatively remote to us. We were not engaging with the volunteer directly because Eaton is spread out on multiple locations, and and we were not always there, and we couldn't have always been there. So what has been our largest strength in able to reach out to volunteers who we are not directly connecting with was our CSR councils. And CSR councils are nothing but people who were more enthusiastic about doing volunteering in some or the other fashion. In fact, these councils are so strong for us in Eaton that I have learned a lot from my councils when I joined Eaton 5 years back. Coming from the development sector, where employee engagement is not really perceived the way employee engagement is perceived in corporate. The council and the council leads were the ones who taught me how to really go about employee volunteering and why to do it and what does it mean to them. So these councils are the local touch points for us, and the councils are the ones who also understand the local milieu. They understand what people want to do. They have a better idea of that. They also understand what local organizations require. Therefore, they are best suited to be able to say that, hey, this is my employee base. They want to work on education, and these are the organizations which are working on education, and here is how we can connect. So while they do the directive they give the direction to the entire process. What the foundation in that respect does is basically invest in the capability building of the councils, invest in the councils and their mandate. So that's the role that my team and I take. And when I talk about investing, the investing is not just in terms of building their capabilities in terms of the actual act of volunteer management, or building their capabilities in understanding social development, because that's something that may not be their core competency, because they're not from the development sector or may not have the educational background or training for that. But so that is where we invest. But we also invest in terms of funds to the ideas that they have uh, conceptualized. So this, I mean, I'll draw from what Swati has been talking about is, the teams get to decide what they want to do and how they want to do it, and then they come in and invest in those ideas and take those forward. So that's pretty much what we do, and we call them entity-led initiatives, wherein the volunteers are engaged on a certain thing. The foundation comes in as an investor on those ideas, and or an investor with the NGO that they are involved with, to give a sense of sustainability to the program. So the volunteers feel a lot more engaged, that they are, being part of a larger goal, and there is a larger whole that is happening, and therefore their contribution is not something ad hoc or one time, but part of a larger goal. So that has kept them motivated and doing. So in that respect, for us, remote volunteering wasn't really what was basically bringing the right set of right mindsets with the right causes. So we invest a lot in, say, identifying NGOs which are doing the right work and have the right composition and can provide the right opportunities. We invest also in our volunteers with respect to perspective building. And that's one of the programs that I'm quite proud about, which is what we call Top 33 initiative, and wherein we bring in people from the development sector, thinkers, practitioners, researchers, activists, thought leaders who'd come and talk about their area of work. I remember having this conversation with my uh, colleagues saying that, feminists are male haters. And that is when we did a whole range of discussions on gender equity, feminism, various kind of feminisms, etc. So, you're talking about different perspectives. People can choose what perspective they want to follow, but to be able to be exposed to variety of perspectives, especially in a socio-political system where there aren't many voices that are being heard. So how do you make these voices being heard? How do you tell people about reality, alternate reality, and various such narratives? So that is what we have been doing as part of Top 33 and giving people the right exposure. Once you and when a volunteer is able to see a situation for himself or herself, then there is no stopping them actually. Then it is difficult to tell them to not engage. I mean, there have been so many occasions where we have come to know of an volunteer engagement which we have not facilitated. It just happened spontaneously because they were connected with an organization or a thought process that they resonated with. So yeah, I mean, for us, to be able to do anything remotely, what we have done is give a platform where people have exposure to different perspectives. They have exposures to different kind of organizations and their work, and then that has helped us build the connect. What has also worked very well with us is in some of these initial connect NGO Connect meetings, we have had senior leaders be a part of it because they are able to sometimes see through the problem of the NGO and give a response which is in their core competency. One such example was when we had an organization working with HIV, people living with HIV, and running health clinics. And when my marketing and sales head visited that organization, he was like, you know what, I can actually do a database for their health clinics, which will help them streamline a lot of their operations. So then there was no looking back. Once he has figured it out, he communicated to the organization. The organization, being strong in their core competency, was able to articulate the need, and then then they had taken over this task completely without very little intervention from our end. So for me, I think if remote volunteering has to work, I mean, I'm still talking about pre-COVID times. It is largely to do with local people taking leaders getting involved, building the right perspective, getting the right organization. Once you get all these elements in place, then there is a spontaneous reaction. You don't really do much about it. COVID times, we changed gears. I mean, for us, it was very difficult to do any kind of volunteering on the ground. In fact, a lot of our employees were doing it in their personal capacity, but nothing institutional, so to say. But what we did and what we changed our gears into was one of the approaches that we have for employee volunteering, which is that be the change you want to see. So, I mean, there were so many occasions when we have spoken about waste and how much waste we are generating, how filthy our cities are. So, can we do waste management at source, and can we start in our own homes? So, we ran a campaign on composting, and a lot of our people came together to start composting in their own houses because they couldn't really leave house to do anything else. And so we were very proud that we could keep thousands of kgs of waste away from coming out and being managed at source. So, and so that is what we have changed our gears to. That we are doing more campaigns which people can run by the way of their own behavior, whether it is reuse, recycle, process the waste, etc., or whether it is about building linkages of the social security linkages, government welfare scheme linkages, or people who work as your domestic workers, or in and around you. So that's like, so those are the kind of campaigns that we've been running, where people don't really get to step out, but are able to make a difference in their own circle of influence. And these are like cut across campaigns, Eat and White campaigns, which can be run fairly easily. And what the foundation does, or my team does, is basically build capacities, connect them to organizations who understand. Like when we're doing composting, we had connected them to organizations that knew composting in and how, and give know-how and training. Similarly, now that we are doing social security and government welfare linkages, we have an organization who will give complete know-how of how to really go about understanding what a person needs, what linkage they are applicable for, and how do you really go about doing it. So the volunteering is happening in their own house, in their own areas. But collectively, I think we are able to bring a change or make a difference to the world. So yeah, that's from me.
That's wonderful. It's wonderful to hear. Even remotely, we are like all organizations like yours are doing a lot of good jobs. Like it's amazing. Tapsi, Sarah, would you like to add onto this? Sarah, I think RPG Foundation also has a lot of remote locations. So would you
Right.
like to shed more light on that?
Yeah, so RPG Foundation, we have a very, very large focus on education, and that's where we could really leverage, the talent and the contribution of the employees that are based remotely. So we have at Pehle Akshar. Pehle Akshar is one of our key programs, in the area of education, where we do schooling and we teach English. Now schools being closed, all the government schools that are being closed, we are so there's what we did here is we started an initiative called A Story a Day. So we encouraged all our volunteers across all the companies of RPG group companies, and so we encouraged them to read a story, and we hosted it on a YouTube channel. And that was a big motivation, or that was something that people were really excited about. And we had the CEOs of our group companies and senior management people reading out stories for little children. And it is you can go and check it out on the Pehle Akshar or the A Story a Day YouTube channel, and that's where a lot of volunteers have contributed. And these stories are the links. What we're doing is we are pushing these YouTube links. We are sending a story every day to all the children that are on the WhatsApp groups with their teachers. So currently, all the government schools, they have their WhatsApp. The students and teachers are linked through WhatsApp, and then what we are doing is our volunteers are recording stories on, and we put them up on YouTube channel, and these stories are being sent to the community children or the children across the government schools, across all the locations of RPG Foundation, wherever we have a presence, and we're working with government schools. So that is one of our very, very big initiatives where we have seen a very, very good response from our volunteers in the organizations, and it's open to the families as well. So we have encouraged the families of our volunteers to read stories. So we have a volunteer spouses and their children and relatives, everybody, enthusiastically participating, and a lot of stories almost every day. It's an ongoing campaign. We started it in somewhere around May, and it is going on. It's gaining momentum, a lot of traction, and people actually are enjoying, because what they see is themselves on a YouTube channel, and then they start sending out their own links to other students and children across. So that's a great motivation. It's a lot of fun and excitement. Another thing is in the area of education, we teach computers to a lot of schools, computer as a subject. And Zensar being one of the companies that is an IT arm of the RPG group of companies. So we that's where volunteers really came in, because it's the strength of our organization is IT software. And we rolled out, we said that we wanted to digitize the entire classroom curriculum and put it into the video format, and again send it across. So every day, so that's where our volunteers are contributing a great deal. So we have put them in teams. There's a structure. There's a good project, that is working on a good number of volunteers, not just from India, not just from India, but across UK, South Africa, wherever our associates, our employees are based, they are able to contribute to this program by helping. One is revising the entire curriculum. We told them that we need to research, we need to do a lot of mapping, and they got involved in researching, and we have recreated the entire curriculum to the global standards. And that's where our talent, the employee talent and their work skills really got mapped to the education, and they were really able to contribute a lot of energy, a lot of momentum. What we also did to keep the motivation and momentum on is to share what we are doing to the other employees, and we are utilizing all the forums that exist within the organization. So if there is a certain business unit that is having a quarterly update, and there are let's say from the finance vertical or from the insurance vertical, there are like 200 people on the call, and all we do is gain some entry into that forum, and we talk about CSR, we talk about how employees from that business unit are actually contributing. So we share all the success stories and give them the visibility. And when they see that their own colleagues are contributing, that's where we get a lot of nominations, and people are motivated, and this whole activity is gaining a lot of momentum. So we just basically connect with a lot of people. Like Swati said, you have to connect, communicate a lot, especially when you're working virtually and you have associates, your employees from across the territories, across the globe. We have volunteers, and we are working in different time zones. So being available for them, if there are employees from South Africa, they work in a different time zone, UK. So we have to form clusters and work with them, and it has to be a seamless process. And then there are still forums where you get all of them together, share the success stories with the organization, have the leadership, give them more visibility across, and that really brings in a lot of energy and motivation. So yes, in the area of education, we have the Pehle Akshar reaching out through the whole objective is to teach English. So we teach English. Now we are teaching English by reading stories and sending them these stories every day. So the children's education is not affected, it's still going on. And then we have computer education being another area of strength. We have our volunteers in completely redesigning and taking it to the digital platform, and ensuring that our students' learning hasn't really stopped. So these are a few things that we are, leveraging on, even though our employees are remotely based. Another thing that we are looking at is, if our employees are, living or have gone back to their hometowns, and that's a really remote area. What we are right now working on is educating them on all the various government schemes. And the objective is that wherever they are in their surrounding, in their villages, or people around, they can go and educate the other people in their community to avail of the government schemes, be it ration department or these migrant workers who are or the people in the community below a certain poverty level. How can they really leverage or make use of these government schemes, be it for education or scholarships, or the ration department? How do you, and we also facilitate Aadhaar card making, and we train our employees to do that. We help them, we give them an understanding of these are the various schemes, and all they need to do is spread that awareness among the people wherever they are, in the small villages or towns, or even if it is their own domestic help, the maid who comes home, even if they can educate her on how she can benefit from the various government schemes. Because right now government has come up with a lot of schemes, and a lot of people are not aware of how to really utilize them, or take the benefit of that. So these are some things where we are, taking the support of our volunteers wherever they are. So these are a few things that we are currently working on. Again, it's a learning process for all of us, but it's working, and there's a lot of energy and momentum that we're gaining. And employees are happy doing what they're doing. Yeah. Thank you.
That's great. That's great. Like I think this way we are also community, like the community development aspect is also being touched upon, and
Absolutely.
that's great. That's amazing. Moving on, Tapsi, would you like to speak on this?
No, so the experience which Sarah has spoken about, I think that covers all the
Yeah,
points. And yeah, so thank you
yeah.
so much. Yeah.
Moving on, Sarah, as you mentioned, we would like to like you to speak upon the long-term skilled volunteering opportunities. As you mentioned, like volunteers in your organization are looking at long-term skilled volunteering opportunities.
Yeah. So long-term volunteering opportunities, when you ask for, it doesn't come easy, most of the times, the experience has been that you send out a communication, you run a campaign, you have a lot of volunteers. A month down, you can look at a 50% cut in that, right? People drop out very, very soon. It takes a long time to identify people who are truly committed and will be there for long-term volunteering. So I think at the very beginning, it's very important to set the expectations with your volunteers that this is going to be a long-term thing. Now, sometimes, people may love to come for a day or two, but then a time commitment for maybe 6 months or for a year. For example, when we were doing our mentoring program, we had a 1-year commitment, right? Mentoring our community children. So I was one of them, and that time I was leading the L&D function, and I was a volunteer at that time. So it was a 1-year commitment. It's hard. It's not easy. So we really need to communicate that, challenge them, and keep them motivated. There are very few people who will, turn out to be long-term committed people. So it's important, and you will be able to identify as they keep getting involved in various initiatives. There are some people who consistently participate, and they are the ones who will also enroll themselves for long term. So long term volunteering is a challenge, but again, if they see the impact and if they see the value in what they're doing, they will stick around, they will commit themselves. Like I said, this volunteering program, the education program, it's been 4 months now, and we still have the same group of volunteers working with us, working midnights. I can see them on chat, and we are I am there at 1 a.m. in the morning, sometimes answering their queries and their doubts. So these are people who are committed, and they will stick along. And we need to have a backup plan as well, because people may want to, but they may not be able to do that because of their commitments, work commitments. So we really need to keep looking at new volunteers. Every 3 months, you need to send out a campaign. You need to identify and keep the motivation up. And one thing that I have seen is what keeps them with you in the long run is the impact that they're creating and constantly communicating with them. Another important thing is that how do you map their talent and interest to your initiatives, right? So there was somebody who was very good at writing puzzles for children. Okay, so involve them, and they keep doing that because that volunteer just kept doing creating a lot of puzzles for all the different levels of students, and it's been like 6 months, and the person, because that's something that he is good at, is interested, that's fun, and he can do it by sitting at home, right? So I think it's very important to identify the right kind of people and communicating that, hey, it's going to be a long-term commitment. And once they commit, we will hold you accountable. That accountability factor is very, very important to bring in right at the beginning of the program. And another thing is to be with them. It's not that they start work and you leave them. You have to guide them, be with them, handhold them, and be there and keep communicating with them all through the process, and give them feedback. Tell them what they're doing good, what is right, what is not right, and also keep communicating the impact. I think that continuous journey, it's a journey, and we need to be with them throughout. And long-term volunteering and that 1 year or 6 month commitment is hard to come by. But once people start seeing the value in that, and the way you also help them through the journey and the process, I think all of these factors together will help you get volunteers that will commit themselves for a long term. One of the things that I'm proud to talk about is the math tuition that we just announced that we need volunteers to help our community students in the area of math. And there are so many people who are good at math, and it can be done online. And this online mentoring, half an hour or 1 hour a week, they can do it, and they enjoy the process of mentoring that child from the community, from wherever they are. And most people that we saw have stuck around for more than a year. The program has been successful for 3 long years, and we have helped students right from grade 8, 9, and 10. And volunteers are very happy to see when the students are getting their grades getting better. So these are areas where the mapping is very important, the interest, your program, and the impact, and being with them through the journey. I think that is what keeps your volunteering, long-term volunteering, makes it more sustainable.
Yeah, 100%. I totally agree to that. In fact, the volunteer also needs to the commitment that he needs to put in. I think when the volunteer sees that kind of impact that he has been, or he or she has been generating, that will in fact lead to a long-term volunteering journey for that particular volunteer. That's what we have also experienced there.
Right.
Thank you so much. I think we have one question. How expenses done for employees volunteering activities are managed if it's through the CSR budget? How are the employee volunteering activities managed if it's through the CSR budget? Roshni, would you like to unmute yourself and explain this question?
Yeah. Hi. Thank you. First of all, thank you Connect for, and thank you Sarah, Tapsi, and other speakers. It was I've been working with employee volunteering areas, but I've been for a couple of years. But this gave me so much insightful to the this whole topic, and how very well it is managed. But my question is, I've heard that many through employee volunteering, you cannot directly be funded through CSR. Any expense which we do for employee for voluntary activities cannot be occurred from CSR fund. So just I wanted to have more insight to it. If anyone can help me for this.
Would anyone like to pick this question? I think, yeah.
Yeah, so Aarti, you want me to take this question?
Yeah, no problem. Please go ahead.
Okay, so good question, Roshni. I will just say that how it is managed at our end. So as I mentioned to you, there are 2 different volunteering platforms that we have. The one where we have linked volunteering with our CSR initiatives. So of course there are CSR fund. Okay, but the way, since it is managed by the employees and implemented by the employees mostly, I will not say all of them. Okay, sometimes we also engage with not-for-profit and do it. The way it is done is that yes, 5%, less than 5%, of your entire budget can be spent in conducting these activities. So it has to be under that limit. Okay, it is not being spent on employees. It is being spent on conducting that particular event. So we are not spending it on employees as such. It is on that particular event that we are spending it. Suppose it is blood camp that we have organized. Suppose it is tree plantation, which are one-time activity. Okay. There are also activities which are done long-term. Okay. So that's one. And on those activities, sometimes we are not doing it alone. We have partnered with not-for-profit locally. Okay, but these activities like tree plantation and blood donation, when we organize a camp, there would be some administrative expenses which can be put under 5%, not going beyond that for conducting it. So this is how, because even if you pay to the not-for-profit for conducting it, he will keep that 5% for his administrative expenses. So as long as you are under this, this is what I know about it. This is how you can go about it. If I'm not wrong, other people can also join in and correct me if I'm wrong. But this is how it is organized. The other platform that we have, which is directly being given to our employees, which is My Seva, there it is a personal act of goodness. So employees, if they're spending, it is their own expense that we are not reimbursing. This is the personal act of goodness which they have conducted. We have given them a platform to report it. So that's how we go about it. Roshni, hope I could answer your question.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Great. All right. Are there any other questions? Okay, so I think we have gone ahead of time today. Like in the sense, we have fallen short of time. I'll quickly wrap up today's webinar. Thank you so much for joining in today, and y'all have all been a really good audience. And we have shared the feedback form with y'all. Uh, Thank you, speakers, for removing the time. I know it's a quite busy month and a busy week. So thank you so much for giving in your time and your insights as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Aarti.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Aarti, and everybody else. Thanks, Swati, Sara, and Zainab.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Swati.
Have a great week.
You too.